Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about the law of cosines. You use the law of cosines when you can't use the law of sines, and you'll see why in a second. But this is the law of cosines formula. All right, it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cosine of a. If you want, notice this, what I want you, and you're going to get this formula, what you notice is the side that you're looking for, you notice where there's a? The cosine of that angle is in the formula. So don't get hung up on, oh, I'm looking for b, but I got to find it. Whatever side you're looking for, that angle measure is what goes into the formula. So you won't have to worry about anything else. They correspond with each other. There is another form of the law of cosines called the alternate form. You guys will get this as well, but I'm going to write down for you. It's cosine, write this down, a equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2 times b times c. Now, you could rewrite that another way. You could say cosine of b, and it would be a squared plus c squared minus b squared. Notice, whatever angle is over here, that's what you subtract, right? There's some sort of correlation between these two. You use this form over here when you're looking for side lengths. And you use this form here when you're looking for what? Angles. Good. Now it says cosine of A. So when you use that formula, are you finding the actual angle measure? When you get in your calculator, cosine A equals, are you finding the actual measure of that angle? No, you're finding the cosine of that angle. So in order to find the actual angle measure, we have to use that inverse cosine. All right, we're going to do that with the law of cosines. Just like we did with sine, when you had said second sine, second answer, same exact thing. You will be given these formulas on your test. All right, you guys are going to have today, I'm going to teach today, then tomorrow you'll have some time to practice in class. Say it again? Next Thursday. Then when we come back, I'll give you the review. I'll probably post it over the weekend. So we'll go over it on Tuesday, a little bit on Wednesday, and your test will be on Thursday. All right, so let's talk about this. You're going to use the law of cosines, guys. The reason why you have the law of cosines is because you're going to be given a triangle where you know all of the side lengths, but you don't know anything about the angles. Or you might be given an angle, like say I give you this angle here. I say this is 47, and I say this side is 12, and this side is 18. With the information that I just threw up there, can you use the law of sines? What do you have to use the law of sines? You have to have an angle measure and the side across from it. Do you have that? No. Do you have that? No. Do you have that? No. So that's why you'd have to use the law of cosines. And the greatest thing about this is, guys, you're going to use the law of cosines in the first step. No, you can use the law of cosines all 3 times, but you're really going to just use it once, and then you can go back to the law of sines that you're used to. So let's look at the problem. All right, here's an example of something that you would have to use the law of sines for. Look what did they give you in this problem? All 3 what? Okay, all 3 sides. They did not give you any angle measures. It says the sides of the triangle are 8, 5, and 12. Find all of the angles. I cannot use the law of sines here because I don't have any angle and its corresponding side length. What is so unbelievably important? You need to write this down, star it, circle it, whatever. You have to find, when you give all 3 sides, you have to find the biggest angle first. If you don't, you'll come out with answers, but they won't mathematically make sense. You have to find the biggest angle first. Now you're looking at this, and you can't go based on the picture, because pictures are not always drawn to scale. How do you know what the biggest or the angle is?
The longest side.
Across from the longest side, perfect. So what angle are we finding first? C. So think about it. With that formula, you guys should take a picture of it and screenshot it. With that formula, you're finding angle C. So are we going to use the side formula, or are we going to use the angle formula? The angle formula. So I'm going to put out here cosine of C. That's what I'm going to find right now. Cosine of C. what I just said to you guys, because you're given all three sides, you're like, I don't know which one's A, B, C, if they name it a different name. You're going to add two of the sides together and subtract one of them. Which one are you going to subtract? C. Whatever angle you're looking for, that's the subtract one. So you're going to use the formula that is side squared. So I'm going to say 8 squared plus 5 squared minus 12 squared. Whatever angle you're looking for, that's what you minus. And then that's going to be divided by 2 times the one that you add together. So 8 times 5. Now again, you're going to be given the formulas. Please don't try to do everything in your calculator all at once. Just simplify. Simplify the numerator. What is 8 squared? You don't have to write it all out, but you just say 8 squared in your calculator. 8 squared. Calculator's dead. So negative 55. It's a negative number, no biggie. And then what's 2 times 8 times 5? What is it? 80? Okay. So you guys have cosine C. Cosine C equals, well, what's negative 55 divided by 80? Negative 55 divided by 80. You're going to get a big old decimal. It's not that big. Negative 0.6875. Yeah? Okay, does that make sense that your angle is negative 0.6875? No. What do we have to do in our calculator? Second cosine. Don't hit sine. Second cosine. Second answer. And I got, do it to the nearest degree. It's easiest. Angle C is 133 degrees. Okay, fine. So you just found out right here, guys, that angle C was 133 degrees. Now, if you want to, you could use the law of cosines again. But do you have to? Why do you not have to? What do you now have? You have an angle on the corresponding side. So now just go in order. You found the biggest, so now find the medium. What would the medium angle be, A or B? Why is it B? It's across from the medium side. Good. So we're going to say sine of 133 over 12 equals the sine of B, I don't know what it is, over 8. Have we done this 972 times? Yep. So 12 times the sine of B equals 8 times the sine of 133, and divide both sides by 12. So you come out with sine B is 8 sine 133 divided by 12. 0.48759, something like that. So in this case, you're going to hit second what? Second sine, second answer. And you get about how many degrees? Okay, angle B is about 29 degrees. Okay, perfect. So angle B, we're going to come over here and write 29. Now, you can use the law of cosines again. You could use the law of sines again. Or, what could you do? You can add those two together. What is 133 plus 29? 162. Okay. And now how do I figure out what angle A is if I know that those two together are 162? You say 180 minus. So 180 minus 162, and you get what? 18 degrees. Now, you can always go back and check, guys, because the biggest angle should be across from the longest side and vice versa. If you don't find the biggest angle first, what will happen is your angles will get messed up, and the biggest angle measure won't be across from the longest side because you didn't go in the correct order. So it's really important to check, to say, okay, is the biggest angle across from the longest side? Yes. Is the smallest angle across from the smallest side? Yes, we're good to go. So in these cases, you're going to use the law of cosine for the first thing, law of sines for the second, and then either law of sines again or add and subtract. Not terribly awful. Takes a little time, but not awful. All right, let's do these two. Let's do number 2 first, because it's like the one we just did. I don't see a picture. What should I do? You should draw it. Take your time, draw your picture. Doesn't matter where you put A, B, and C. Just make sure the sides are across from the angle. So A is here, B is here, and C is here. Now, what do we need to find first, guys? the biggest angle. In this case, what is the biggest angle? We're going to find B first. So we're going to use that formula, cosine B. Now, you don't have to memorize this formula. I'm going to give it to you, but think about it. If I'm finding B, then what's going to go in the subtraction part of this formula? Side B. So I'm going to minus 9 squared here. I know that. And I'm just going to add the other two together. So 6 squared plus 4 squared. And then on the bottom, it's 2 times the 6 and the 4. So now take your time. Simplify down. Cosine B equals what's 6 squared plus 4 squared minus 9 squared. Negative 29 over what? 48? Do you guys agree with me? Yeah? Okay. So now what's negative 29 divided by 48? Negative 0.604166. You don't have to write that out. What do I need to do in my calculator? Second cosine, good. Second answer. And I get about how much? Nearest degree. Okay, so B equals about 127 degrees. All right, perfect. Now, guys, that I know that B is 127 degrees, does this now become a problem that we did yesterday? Yes, I can use what now? The law of sines. I can say sine of 127 over 9 equals. Now we found the biggest. Let's find the middle one. What's going to be the middle angle? A. Good. So sine of A over 6. Cross multiply. So 6 times the sine of 127 equals 9 times the sine of A. Divide both sides by 9. I get the sine of A equals what? 6 sine 127 divided by 9. 0.532423, blah, 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 blah. So what in my calculator? Second sine, second answer. And I get about how much? Angle A is about 32 degrees. Perfect. So A up here is about 32. So on a test or a quiz, I don't want to be searching for your answers. There's a lot of work here. So just circle. Just be like, okay, B is this. A is this. How do I figure out the angle that's missing? I add. I'm going to add 127 plus 32 and get what? 159? So 159 degrees are already accounted for. I'm going to take 180 minus and get what? Okay, so angle A is 21 degrees. Now, the thing that's wonderful about law of cosines, guys, that second triangle can't happen. It can with law of sines. Remember, we got to check to see if there's a second triangle, but that doesn't happen in the law of cosines. So that's good. You don't have to worry about that. Oh, that's C, my bad. Sorry. Yeah, angle C. 21 it was? Okay, perfect. All right, so let's do another example. This is the same thing. We're going to, and again, on your quiz, I'm going to say using the law of cosines or sines, whatever. But I'm going to say A, B, and C. In this case, I got a little different information. I got angle A is 120 degrees. Side B is 7. And side C is 8. All right, the first thing we're going to try and do is use the law of cosines because it's the easiest thing. Or law of sines, I should say. It's easier. But I don't have that information, do I? What are the things I'm missing? I'm missing angle B, I'm missing angle C, and I'm missing side A. So in this case, guys, we're not looking for an angle measure. We're looking for what? A side. So I'm going to use the side one, the one that starts with A squared. If I'm starting with A squared, if I'm looking for that side, what is the angle measure that I'm going to use that's going to be at the other end of my equation? 120, right? Over way at the end, it's going to say cosine of 120. Here's the formula right here. So I'm going to say the other two sides. So I'm going to say 8 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 8 times 7, right? All the sides that I know, times the cosine of 120. Now, guys, I need you to be really careful here. Some of you are going to try and put the whole thing in your calculator, and it's going to work out for you. Some of you are not. If you go through and simplify in steps, this is one value right here, 8 squared plus 7 squared. What is 8 squared, God bless you, plus 7 squared? It's 113. That says minus. This is its own value, all of this. You can't say minus 2 times. You have to do it like this. Like it's this minus this. So I would do each piece separately in your calculator. For that second piece, I'd hit 2 times 8 times 7 times the cosine of 120. And I got, watch what I get, negative 56. Right, so in the formula, there's a minus sign there. And then if you get a negative answer, what happens with minus a negative? It becomes positive. Good. So this becomes a squared equals, what's 113 plus 56? 169? All right, is my side length 169? No. How do I find out what the side length is? You take the square root. Good. So square root of 169, a equals 13. Now sometimes you guys, well, it's plus or minus, isn't it? Agreed. But since we're talking about length, do I use the negative? No. Now, 95% of the time, guys, this does not work out to a nice, pretty whole number. You'll get a decimal. Decimals are fine. I'll tell you what's around to. But now, guys, we know. Look, we found side A. We know that side A is 13. What can I use now to solve the rest of this triangle? Law of sines. I have a side length and its corresponding angle. So I can say sine of 120 over 13 equals, what would the middle angle side, middle angle be? C, right? 8's bigger than 7. So I'm going to say sine C over 8. Just get in that habit of going in order. So we're going to cross multiply 8 times the sine of 120 equals 13 times the sine of C. Divide both sides by 13. And you get the sine of C equals, what's 8 times 120, sine of 120 divided by 13. Niner. Point, what'd you get? 0.532938. What do we do in our calculator? Sine negative 1. So second sign, second answer. What'd you all get? There you go. Okay. So angle C is about 32 degrees. Okay, great. So I found side A. Good. I found angle C. What's the last angle that I'm looking for then? How do you find B? You're going to add and subtract. I know that one angle is 120 degrees. I know the other angle is 32 degrees. So what does that give me? 152? 180 minus 152 is what? So angle B is 28 degrees. Now check. What's the longest side? 13. Is that across from the biggest angle? Yes. Smallest side is 7. Is that across from the smallest angle? Yep. All right, you're good. All right, is this terribly awful? No. Law of cosines, you do not have to check for a second triangle. All right, moving along. We're going to get something really, really hard. So I'm sorry. Just kidding. An interesting application of the law of cosines involves a formula for finding the area of a triangle with the lengths of 3 sides. We're going to do 2 area problems here, 2 different formulas, and I'm going to give you the formulas on the quiz test. Your normal area formula, you guys would tell me, is 1/2 base times height, right? Base times height divided by 2. Yeah. We use that for right triangles only. We're not talking about right triangles. We are talking about oblique triangles. That means triangles that don't have any right angles. So there's 2 different formulas. There's a formula called Heron's formula. That's what we use. We're going to talk about it. Heron's formula is when you have all 3 sides. And then we're going to do an area formula for an oblique triangle that has a side and an angle and two sides. So when I first look at Heron's formula, this is what it is. You will be given this, but all you're doing, right, you find your S value. Your S value is you take all three sides, add them up, and divide by 2. Now, let me show you an important piece of information. If I was going to say 10 plus 13 plus 12 divided by 2. I want you guys to do this one of two ways. I want you to do it in your calculator all at one time with no parentheses. So 10 plus 13 plus 12, hit divided by 2. And tell me what you get. No parentheses. Did you get 29? Yes or no? Okay, so now I'm going to put parentheses on top. 10 plus 13 plus 12 divided by 2. And I got 17.5. And you guys are going to tell me, you're going to show me your calculator and be like, which one is right? You guys tell me which one's right. Why? Yes. What's happening with equals 29? Your calculator is dividing these two first, because it does order of operations, right? It divides those two and then adds 13 and 10. But what you need to do is tell your calculator, hey, calculator, add all of these up first, then divide by 2. My suggestion to you, because a lot of times we forget parentheses, I would add the whole top, hit enter, and then divide it by 2. But all you're doing is you're finding, they call it the semi-perimeter, because it's like half of a squarish, kind of. It's not right angles, but half of a quadrilateral. So what you're doing is finding the S value, and then all you do is just subtract each of the sides from that S value. And again, you're going to be given this formula, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you're using Heron's formula to find the area of this, all right, well, you take all three of the sides. One of the sides is 125, one of the sides is 280, and one of the sides is 315. We're going to add all that up and divide by 2. That's your S value. So in your calculators, guys, what's 125 plus 280 plus 315, and then divide that by 2. I got S equals 360. Now, that's not your answer to the question. That's just your S value. So now what you do to show me your work is you take that S value and you put it in the front of your square root. You say, okay, 360 underneath. And then you take every side and just subtract from it. So it's 360 minus 125. 360 minus 280. 360 minus 315. Now, if you're taking the square root of a number, can you take the square root of a negative and get a real answer? Yes or no? No. So if you get something that says error or something like that, it's because you put the numbers in wrong. You put 125 minus 360. But if you simplify this now, I have 360 still in the front. What's 360 minus 125? 235, okay, that's the first one you're multiplying. Then I have 360 minus 280, which is what? 80. And then I have 360 minus 315, which is what? 45? That, yeah. Now you're gonna multiply all those numbers together. So it's gonna be a big number, guys. 360 times 235 times 80, excuse me, times 45. And this is what I got. How many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Again, this is all calculator work, and now we're going to take the square root of that. So second square root, second answer. About, what is the area to this? The nearest whole number. 17,452. And what do we talk about? Feet. And since it's area, it's squared. Have to have your units and squared. But to use Heron's formula, it's going to say using Heron's formula, and I'm going to give you the formula. You just find, add up all three sides, divide by 2, and then you subtract that S value from each one of them underneath the square root. Super easy. Yeah? All right, so you guys have a Law of Cosines website. Let me look at it. I want to make sure that I have all the problems on there that I want. I'll make it due Tuesday, and you can submit it as a PDF. You don't have to actually input because it is a pain in the butt. I understand.